I. Many people have said to me, "Degree, I wish I could write poems." I often try. But plus or minus they mean, I gather, that the impulse, the creative itch, is in them, but they don't know how to satisfy it. My own position is that I know how to write poetry, but I can't be bothered. I have not got the itch. The least I can do, however, is to try to help those who have. A mistake commonly committed by novices is to make up their minds what it is they are going to say before they begin. This is superfluous effort, tending to cramp the style. It is permissible, if not essential, to select a_subject_say, MUD but any detailed argument or planned which may restrict the free development of meter and rhyme, if any, is to be discouraged. With that understanding, let us now write a poem about MUD. I should begin in this sort of way. Mud, mud. Nothing but mud. Oh my God. It will be seen at once that we are not going to have much rhyme in this poem, or if we do, we shall very soon be compelled to strike a sinister note, because almost the only rhymes to _mud_ are _blood_ and _flood_, while, as the authors of our hymns have discovered, there are very satisfactory rhymes to _God_. They shamefully evaded the difficulty by using words like _road_, but in first-class poetry one cannot do that. On the whole, therefore, this poem had better be _ver. Libra_. That will take much less time and be more dramatic, without plunging us into a flood of blood or anything drastic like that. We now go on with a little descriptive business. Into the sunset, swallowing up the sun. Crawling, creeping. The naked flats. Now there ought to be a verb. That is the worst of _ver Libra_, 1. Gets carried away by beautiful phrases and is brought up suddenly by a complete absence of verbs. However, at a pinch one can do without a verb. That is the best of _ver Libra_, amber and gold. Deep stained in mystery. And the colors of mystery. Inapprehensible. Golden like wet gold. Amber like a woman of Arabia. That has in her breast the forsaken treasures of old time. Love and destruction. Oblivion and decay. And immemorial tins. Tin upon tin. Old boots and bottles that hold no more their richness in them. And we might do a good deal more of this descriptive business, bringing in something about dead bodies, mud of course being full of dead bodies. But we had better go on. We strike now the personal note. And I too am no more than a bottle. An empty bottle. Heaving helpless on the mud of life. Without a label and without a cork. Empty I am, yet no man troubles to return me. And why? Because there is not sixpence on me. Bah! The sun goes down. The birds will home. But I remain here. Drifting empty under the night. Drifting. When one is well away with this part of the poem, it is almost impossible to stop. When you are writing in meter, you come eventually to the 8th line of the last verse and you have to stop, but in _ver Libra_, you have no assistance of that kind. This particular poem is being written for instructional purposes in a journal of limited capacity, so it will probably have to stop fairly soon, but in practice it would go on for a long time yet. In any case, however, it would end in the same way, like this. Mud, mud. Nothing but mud. Oh, my God. That reasserts, you see, in a striking manner, the original motif and somehow expresses in a few words the poignant melancholy of the whole poem. Another advantage in finishing a long poem, such as this, would be, in the same way as you began, it is that it makes it clear. to the reader that he is still reading the same poem. Sometimes, and especially an underscore vers libre underscore of an emotional and digressive character, the reader has a hideous fear that he has turned over 2 pages and got into another poem altogether. This little trick reassures him. And if you are writing underscore vers libre underscore, you must not lose any legitimate opportunity of reassuring the reader. To treat the same theme in meter and rhyme will be a much more difficult matter. The great thing will be to avoid having underscore mud underscore at the end of a line, for the reasons already given. We had better have long 10-syllable lines, and we had better have 4 of them in each verse. Gray wrote an elegy in that meter, which has given general satisfaction. We will begin. As I came down through Chintonbury Hole, the tide rolled out from Wurzel to the sea. In a serious poem of this kind, it is essential to establish a locality atmosphere at once, therefore one mentions a few places by name to show that one has been there. If the reader has been there too, he will like the poem, and if he hasn't, no harm is done. The only thing is that locally Chintonbury is probably pronounced Chun-berry, in which case it will not scan. One cannot be too careful about that sort of thing. However, as an illustration, Chintonbury will serve. It is now necessary to show somehow in this verse that the poem is about mud. It is also necessary to organize a rhyme for degree hole, plus or minus, and a rhyme for degree C, plus or minus, and of the two this is the more important. I shall do it like this, and like the unclothed levels of my soul. The yellow mud lay mourning nakedly. There is a good deal to be said against these 2 lines. For one thing, I am not sure that the mud ought to be yellow. It will remind people of Covent Garden Tube Station, and no one wants to be reminded of that. However, it does suggest the inexpressible biliousness of the theme. I think degree levels, plus or minus, is a little weak. It is a good poetical word and doesn't mean anything in particular, but we have too many words of that kind in this verse. Degree deserts, plus or minus, would do, except that deserts and mud don't go very well together. However, that sort of point must be left to the individual writer. At first sight, the student may think that degree naked underscore ly underscore plus or minus is not a good rhyme for degree C. Plus or minus, nor is it. If you do that kind of thing in comic poetry, no editor will give you money. But in serious poetry, it is quite legitimate. In fact, it is rather encouraged. That is why serious poetry is so much easier than comic poetry. In my next lecture, I shall deal with comic poetry. I don't think I shall finish this poem now. The fact is, I am not feeling so inspired as I was. It is very hot. Besides, I have got hay fever and keep on sneezing. Constant sneezing knocks all the inspiration out of a man. At the same time, a tendency to hay fever is a sign of intellect and culture, and all the great poets were martyrs to it. That is why none of them grew very lyrical about hay. Corn excited them a good deal, and even straw, but hay hardly ever. So the student must finish this poem as best he can, and I shall be glad to consider and criticize what he does, though I may say at once that there will be no prize. It ought to go on for another 8 verses or so, though that is not essential in these days, for if it simply go on, it can just stop in the middle. Only then it must be headed degree mud, a fragment. Plus or minus. And in any case, in the bottom left-hand corner, the student must write underscore Chintonbury, May 28, 1920 underscore.